This is the Persistence of Vision podcast.
Welcome in to this month's episode of the Persistence of Vision podcast. I'm Clint Till, and here we are in December, the end of another year. I can't believe it. I started this podcast back in January, and for right now, a monthly cadence is what works out best for my schedule. And it's been great. I hope you've enjoyed listening to these episodes. This month, I'm just going to do a little something different. I'm just going to share some things that are going on, make some announcements, and maybe read a couple of the things that I have been writing and posting about online. So first of all, thank you so much for your continued support in listening to this podcast, in reading my work at Persistence of Vision. I am now offering paid subscriptions over at Substack. So if you go to clinttill.substack.com/subscribe, you can see all of the things that I'm offering. So here's what you'll get if you decide to become a subscriber at either $5 per month or $50 per year. As a free subscriber, you are always going to have access to this podcast on a monthly basis. You're going to have access to the newsletter and the entire archive. That's not going away. If you decide to upgrade to a $5 monthly subscription or a $50 annual subscription, you're not only going to have access to everything I just mentioned, but you're also going to get access to the private subscriber chat where you can ask me any kind of questions you have. If you need advice, insights, if you want me to read anything you're working on to provide notes, or even, hey, if you're a filmmaker and you're working on an edit, you want to send me an early link, I can check it out, give you some notes, so you'll have access to that subscriber chat, a little one-on-one access right there. You're also going to have access to an extra bonus email, the Creative Digest, which is simply a roundup of curated articles that I've pulled together. These are things that I have been reading, articles, things that I would recommend you check out for inspiration. And I'm also going to be sending out an occasional extra email from time to time for my paid subscribers, not only the Creative Digest, but other things as well. You're also going to have access to extended podcast episodes. So on the free feed, every month I sit down and chat with another person in the creative industry. But if you're a monthly or annual subscriber, you're going to have access to extended podcast episodes. So this is going to be extra material that did not make it into the free version. So additional insights, just more stories, more material that you're going to hear with those extended interviews. If you're a patron member at $100 per year, not only are you going to have access to everything I just mentioned, but you're also going to have a sponsor placement in both the newsletter and my podcast. So what that means is I'm going to give you the chance to plug anything you're working on, promote it, give a little shout out. And so I will reserve space in both the newsletter and the podcast for a sponsorship break. And so you'll get the chance to promote anything that you're working on. And also my patron subscribers are going to receive a Persistence of Vision vinyl sticker. So again, go to clinttill.substack.com/subscribe to see all the subscription plans that are available. I hope you'll take advantage of it. I also am offering discounts for group subscriptions, and you can also gift a subscription to someone that you think would be interested in what I'm doing. In January, season 2 of my podcast begins, where I have lined up some great interviews with other creatives. So I hope you will subscribe, share, like, leave a review for this podcast. That helps other people to find it. If you want to be a part of this podcast, if you have a great story to share and you want to be included, be sure to let me know. You can go to clinttill.net/contact, reach out to me, let me know, and I'd love to have you on this show at a future time. And now on with the show. Well, it's December and we're coming upon the end of yet another year. 2026 is right here upon us. And so I thought it would be appropriate to really sit down and offer up a couple of things that I hope you'll find encouraging and inspiring as you look forward to the next year. This is always a time when people are thinking back to the things that they've accomplished this previous year, and they're always setting New Year's resolutions for the upcoming year, goals for themselves, things that they want to accomplish. And I was thinking about this, and it brought me back to a time a little over 10 years ago now, where it was just a moment for me in my life where I didn't want to wait. I just wanted to do something, produce something, create. And I was inspired by a blog post I read on the TED website way back in 2015. And it encourages me, as I reflect on it every time I come back to it, to just be an artist right now. I've often thought about the fact that there's really no excuse to just not to get out there and create something. I've been in video production for a long time, and I just enjoy the process of making things. And I'm sure you do as well, whether that is writing, photography, video production, filmmaking, whether you're a sculptor, a painter. Don't let circumstance, don't let what's going on in your life right now kind of hold you back from having that creative outlet. I can remember when I was just working with my dad's VHS camcorder. It was nothing for me to just call up some friends and say, "Hey, do you want to make a movie this afternoon?" And we would just go and be spontaneous and go and create and make things. And I think as we get older and life kind of gets in the way a little bit with your day job and all the responsibilities you have as an adult, maybe you get married, maybe you have children. So there's other things that get in the way. And so it can kind of feel like the creative pursuits that you have are being squeezed out. So I think it's very important that we take time for ourselves to go and to create, even if no one ever sees it, even if no one reads what we write or sees what we're putting out there, even if we're just doing it for ourselves, that's enough. I remember a few years ago when I was back visiting family over the Christmas weekend. I was thinking to myself, what should I do with that free time after all the presents were unwrapped and everyone is sitting around relaxing and catching up with one another? What should we do? And I thought, well, why not make a short film? This was a few years ago, so at the time, my nephew was still a college student who was also pursuing film production, and he liked the idea. And so we just spent a Friday afternoon talking about what we'd like to do, batting around some ideas. What do we have available? Who do we have available? And then once we landed on something that we liked, we just started working on the script. He worked the phones to try and recruit some friends, and it was a great creative exercise. We were forced to use exactly what we had available to us, which dictated what type of story we could tell. Now, one big advantage to this particular project is that we had a great location. My in-laws live on a lot of wooded land with a pond nearby, so we obviously used the location as a starting point for our script. So, okay, what kind of film takes place in a secluded wooded location? And so we settled in on the story of a young couple trapped for years in a dangerous, isolated religious cult, and they're making their escape together. So our assembled group could only give us about 5 hours of their time, which was absolutely miraculous when you think back on it, because this was during the Christmas holidays. So no doubt they had other things they had going on, but they decided to take some of their time out to do this for fun. And we just really made the shot list up on the fly. We had an idea of where on the property each scene would take place. But once we were out there, we just quickly decided where to place the camera, how to block our actors, and we just moved as quickly as possible. And then we all took turns. I had to be in front of the camera for a few scenes, and then we'd rotate. I'd go behind the camera. Someone else would take a turn out in front of the camera because we had so few people working on it that we all kind of had to take on different roles. So it was a good experience, and we were pretty pleased with the final result, considering how quickly it all came together and actually made it into a few festivals. And I'll post a link to this film in the show notes of this podcast episode. So maybe you can go check it out. But I hope that this will be an encouragement to you as you look ahead to 2026. Maybe there are some things that have been on the back burner for you, some projects that you want to take up. Maybe there's that half written script that's still sitting in your drawer somewhere at your house. Well, use this story. Use this episode as your permission. I'm giving you permission to go get that script out of the drawer, dust it off, finish it. Take the camera out of the case, go out and do something. Don't think about it, just make. Don't censor yourself, just get out and do it. Be an artist right now. As we look ahead to 2026, I want to talk a little bit about video production and talk to those who are video producers, content creators, and really speak to you specifically about organizing your video content and how best to do it. Think about how when you're browsing your favorite streaming service, you don't just consider titles, and plot summaries, you also consider genre. What kind of movie am I in the mood for tonight? Your videos that you're creating for a business, for a nonprofit, for your own personal channel, you should also think about bucketing them into different categories as well. So there is something for everyone. Now, I'm not talking about getting completely off brand or away from the core of what you produce, but even within that core, there are different types of videos that you're probably creating because your audience might span different age groups, ethnicities, backgrounds, interests. And so naturally, they're not all going to respond in the same way to the same type of video. But even if your product or service or what you're offering is in a very narrow niche market, it's still going to benefit you to think about how you can create buckets around your video content and create unique messaging within that bucket. Okay, so here's what I would recommend. I first will call this first one evergreen content. These are the big picture videos, stories that speak broadly about your brand, your product, or your service. They can be used across the entire business and touch on big themes and big ideas. And they're called evergreen for that reason, or I call them evergreen because they can be used for a longer period of time. They have a longer shelf life, 1 to 3 years, maybe even more because they are so broad. Next thing to think about is organizing your videos into topical features. Okay. Pick out one specific issue that a product or service does that will help customers, and make a video about that one thing. This allows you to go into greater detail, but it doesn't overload your audience with too much information. You can keep these short. These videos might be 1, 2 to 4 minutes. And then you can extract, if the videos do run a little bit longer, you can extract shorter segments for social media use. Another bucket you can put your videos in are voices and testimonials. These are short, simple, one-shot talking head videos, sound bites from customers, employees, or volunteers who speak powerfully about your product, service, or mission. And then you can just use these across your website and social channels. The next bucket I would put my videos in are the happening now videos, things that are timely, videos that are meant to be produced with a tight turnaround. So if there's anything that's happening around your business, your product or service that's considered newsworthy, that would really be good PR, make a video about it, edit it on the same day, post it late that day or the following day while the news is still fresh. So this could be something about an award your company receives, an important milestone, a product launch. It could be something if you're like a vlogger or podcaster. This could be something that happens same day that you need to hop on and talk about it immediately. Something that happens with maybe a company that you cover or a product or service that you cover. Another category to think about are those human interest stories. So these videos don't focus so much on brand, products, or big picture themes. These are more documentary style videos. They are short form docs. They're focused solely on the people. Think day in the life biographies on those who have benefited from your product or service. So it's not strictly a testimonial, but it's a story. It's a story that shares with your viewer how this person has been affected by a product or service. Or it could be something internal. It could be about people in your company who work behind the scenes. If you feel that's important to communicate, engineers, developers, anybody that you can put out front and center that shows your customer client base, the people behind the brand. So these videos are great because they allow viewers the chance to get to know people personally, and it's not a hard sell. It's a softer sales pitch because you're really speaking more about the people behind what you're doing or the people affected by what you're offering. Another category are those short pre-roll and post-roll videos. So these will be great for paid digital ads that you can run. So they may be as short as 6 seconds or 15 seconds. They're focused on one direct call to action. And then another category I would recommend are those infographic videos. These are straight up explainer videos. They're very technical in nature. They rely on animated icons to give your viewers basic how-to information or to walk your viewers through specific concepts. So think about what you have. Might be best to kind of chart this in some way if you have a lot of content that you really do need to get organized, and maybe start dividing these up into these different buckets that I've mentioned as you look ahead to next year. And hopefully it'll give you a better indication of what you have already out there in the world. And it'll kind of see maybe there are some buckets that aren't quite as full as others. And you think to yourself, oh, yeah, I need to stop focusing on this category for the time being and really build up my library in this other category as well. There's a pretty robust community that has grown on Substack, and they call themselves FilmStack. And it's just a great collection of writers who talk about film. They may be filmmakers themselves, screenwriters, producers, they might be film critics. And the organizers of this community have started a FilmStack daily inspiration challenge. And it's been going on for several months now. And every day they recruit another member of their community to post something that just basically shares what's been inspiring them lately. And I had the opportunity to participate in this daily inspiration challenge, and I will be sure to link back to that article in the show notes for this month. But I thought, hey, as we close out 2025 and we look ahead to 2026, let's talk about some of those things that are inspiring us right now. And so as you think about those things that are inspiring you, think about how you can take that inspiration as encouragement as we launch into 2026 to make things happen for yourself. So I thought as I was writing this inspiration challenge post, I started thinking about childhood heroes. Who were your childhood heroes? When you think about that question, I'm sure someone popped to mind. Could have been a parent, a teacher, Superman. I know these are those types of questions that you normally get during a blind date, right? Or one of those awkward icebreaker social activities. But as I was thinking about it, of course, yes, my dad was a big childhood hero of mine. He's a man that I looked up to and continue to do for all things related to life. I can also think of a teacher in particular who led me down a very fulfilling path. And gosh, when it comes to superheroes, I cannot tell you how many times I watched the original Christopher Reeve Superman film. But as I think about those childhood heroes, I'm also thinking about those individuals that provide inspiration. And when I think about my childhood hero, when it comes to inspiration, the person that kind of inspired me the most when I was young is Benjamin Franklin. When I was in elementary school, there was one book I checked out from the library and I read it over and over again. It was the biography, Benjamin Franklin by Clara Ingram Judson. And I think as a kid, Benjamin Franklin always inspired me because he was the textbook Renaissance man. Here's a man with a variety of interests, talents, and careers, and it created this eclectic life full of experiences. I mean, think about his life. Benjamin Franklin was a printer, a publisher, and an author. He was a scientist, an inventor. He was a politician and a civil servant, a diplomat, and a statesman. And I think he inspired me because of how varied his life was. And as I grew up, I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to be a well rounded person. I wanted to experience and try different things. And I'm continually inspired today by those people that are skilled in many different disciplines and can do a number of different things well. And so, as I was thinking about my inspiration as we close out 2025 and go into 2026, I wanted to share a few things that have been inspiring me lately. As a filmmaker, I've always considered myself a perpetual student of anything related to film and video production. I'm constantly seeking out new ways to improve how I shoot, how I direct, how I write. And I was recently watching the film Memories of Murder. It's an older film, came out in 2003. And I was reminded again when I was watching this film of how well the director handles the staging of his actors. First of all, let me recommend that you watch that film if you haven't already seen it. But also, I'm going to recommend one of the best YouTube channels that I've seen as it pertains to video essays on filmmaking, and that's Every Frame a Painting. And I'm going to link to that in the show notes this month. So if you've already seen this video about Memories of Murder and how the director creates great ensemble staging, give it a rewatch. It's a reminder that as filmmakers, we should all find creative ways to block both the camera and the talent to avoid what could be, repetitive uses of simple over the shoulder shots and shot reverse shot. As it pertains to the area of cinematography, I've recently been catching up on the show Your Honor, starring Bryan Cranston. And not only does the story captivate me, but just the beautiful cinematography stands out as well. And it's great to just go through this show. I've enjoyed maybe just pausing it at certain points just to look at the lighting, but also what lenses are they using? Where's the camera placed? How is the talent placed? How does the lighting fall onto the scene? I would say that Your Honor is one of the best looking shows that I've seen recently, just from a cinematography standpoint. Right now, it is streaming on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, it's only 2 seasons. Check it out. I think you'll really appreciate the cinematography. At the beginning of November of this year, I wrapped up an 8-week stage acting class for adults. While I was in college, I minored in theaters, but I haven't done anything on stage since that time. So when we talk about inspiration, it was incredibly inspiring for me to kind of stretch myself and get back into it after so many years of not being involved in that world. And I actually wrote about this a little bit on Substack. This is another post that I'll be sure to link to in the show notes so you can read it and check it out. But it's this idea of giving yourself permission to try that thing that you've been putting off for a while. Do that thing that you've been thinking about, but you haven't had the courage to do it. Or maybe you've used finances as a barrier, saying, well, it costs too much. And that's kind of what I was thinking with this acting class as well, is that, my money will be better spent elsewhere. But finally decided to pull the trigger this fall. And I had the best time doing it. And it was so great to kind of get past that block, right? Get past that hesitancy to go and just do. So in the world of acting, not only did that inspire me, just meeting new people and getting back on stage, but there's always people to draw inspiration from on social media. And there's an actor that I've been following on X, Luke Barnett, and this is an individual who is not waiting for permission. He's busy making his own opportunities, not waiting for things to come to him. He recently got a lot of publicity with his short film Ovation. This was a no budget short that he conceived of, he starred in, and he's already received a lot of publicity from it and a lot of write ups, including outlets like Screen Rant. And, if you've been paying attention to the AI controversy as it pertains to film production right now, there's been a recent backlash over both Coca-Cola's new AI holiday commercial and a McDonald's AI holiday commercial. So in response to that, Luke created his own Pepsi ad in response to all of this. And he's just doing creative things in order to get his name out there and to get people to notice him. So let's all be willing, disciplined, and persistent enough to carve a path for ourselves and not to wait for anyone's permission. These are a few things that have been inspiring me lately. One of the last things I'll mention is the podcast Heavyweight. I work a lot in my day job in the short form documentary space. So I do a lot of nonfiction storytelling, and I'm always inspired by expert storytellers, producers who can weave narration, interview sound bites, music, and sound effects into a compelling whole that's full of heart and emotion. And I don't know that there's anyone out there doing it any better than Jonathan Goldstein with his podcast Heavyweight. His ability to evoke emotion from the listener with every episode, I think, is admirable. And I look to storytellers like Jonathan when I'm editing my own short documentaries and I need some inspiration on how to do it right. So as we come to the end of 2025, I just wanted to hit the pause button for a moment and talk about a few of these things, and really, really hope to encourage and inspire all of us as we look ahead to 2026. I'll be back in January with a brand new interview, and I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll continue listening next year. We've got a lot of good things lined up. Remember, go subscribe at clintstill.substack.com/subscribe. And like I said, if you're interested in what I'm doing here and want to support me financially to help me continue with this podcast, with the writings that I'm doing, with my ongoing film projects, with my YouTube channel, that financial support would be greatly appreciated. From the very beginning of this, I wanted Persistence of Vision to be a place where you could come to read or listen to stories of career experiences from both myself and other creatives. It's a place that doesn't shy away from vulnerability, from sharing the difficulties and the mistakes that so often make us feel incredibly alone. My goal is that by sharing these stories, you can find encouragement in your own creative pursuits and realize that you're not alone, that we all make mistakes, and that you'll feel inspired to persist despite whatever difficulties lie ahead. I'm Clint, and you've been listening to the Persistence of Vision podcast.